I see 4 of you guys in here. Let me know who's in here. I want to say hey. And if you guys have any requests, let me know. We'll look at some fish. But for today, I mostly want to talk about breeding fish. What we do here, kind of what we would recommend. Um, whether it's a farm setting or your home aquarium, it's relatively similar. So it's something we kind of want to touch base on. So if you guys have any breeding questions or if you want to see any fish while we talk about that today, just let me know. And also, before we're done today, we're going to go over this week's 5 sale items. So before we're ending today, we're going to go over that. We're going to talk about breeding, and we're going to look at some fish while we do. So questions, comments, fish requests, let me know. So let's turn around. Here we have some Otopharynx tetrastigma. I love these guys, one of my favorite haps. A good color, really cool kind of pattern on their anal fins on the males here. So, good morning Cotton, how's it going? Thanks for joining as always. So, I'm gonna let some people get in here before. Speaking of breeding fish, you got some fish holding in here. Before we get into it, we're just gonna let some people join in, and we'll have a look at some fish here. Got some lion sanga. So it's been really hot in Florida, and that's a good thing for us here on the farm. We've gotten a lot of production lately, so that's kind of why I wanted to talk about breeding today. As the weather ramps up and gets warmer and the rainy season comes, we get a lot more breeding on all of our fish. The Africans, the South Americans, the Central Americans, they all really just kind of take off. Here we have, it looks like 3 males and a handful of females of the Obi Borlei. These guys are looking really good. Animal Instincts ordered 8 mouth brooding Severins, and you're loving them. Animal Instincts, just wait until they grow out and they color up. The red on them, if they decide they want to spawn and they're happy, that red that comes out on them is amazing. They get really big, so be prepared for that. You may either need to upgrade tanks or maybe perhaps rehome some fish, because they do get really large, and once they start breeding, they are absolutely prolific. One of my favorite fish here on the farm, that's the Heros Liberifer. Sanjay wants to see the Spheni. Yeah, we can go look at them. And how to breed geophagus, that's a good question as well. So we'll start there. I was going to start with African cichlids, but let's go look at some Spheni. And we'll try to talk about some key points on how to get them to breed and what to expect when you do get them to breed. So first, let's go find them. And here we go. It wasn't that hard, so good. Starting off good today, guys. Found the fish, went right to them. So here we go. We got, these guys are like 3 to 3.5 inches. These are the geophagus spheni. We have some people walking by, so they are getting a little bit scared, but let's let them settle in and we'll sit here and talk about how to breed geophagus, what we do here, kind of what to expect when they breed. So first off, I would always recommend starting with a group of juveniles and letting them grow up together. When you get into some of the more difficult to sex fish like geophagus, when you're going to purchase them, it's hard to accurately sex them. So I would recommend buying a group of at least 6, but I would recommend 8 to start off with, and then that's going to guarantee you a male and female for sure. So next thing you're going to want to do is just wait for them to grow out, and they're going to naturally kind of pair off on their own. It's usually going to be your dominant male, your dominant female, and they're going to form a pair. And you're going to want this geophagus. Definitely recommend sand in the aquarium. So here we have kind of bigger grit sand. Gonna recommend a place for them to lay. So a nice flat rock, something like this would work. A piece of driftwood that's kind of flat, or maybe even a tile in the corner of the aquarium. Typically you want it in a secure place, so corners of the aquarium, so this back corner over here, or you could do the back corner over there. Have it kind of sectioned off to where the fish feel safe and they're not going to feel like they have to. Just give them a safe place where it's easy for them to guard, whether there's other fish in the tank or not. It's going to benefit greatly when it comes to trying to spawn them. Another thing is water parameters. Now, if you're trying to spawn fish, some are more forgiving on water parameters than others when it comes to pH, TDS, GH, KH, all of those things. The Sphenai, geophagus in general, they seem to be a little bit more exact on their parameters, so you're going to want to be more conscious of what kind of water you're keeping them in. We recommend a lower TDS and a lower pH. So TDS, conductivity, some people will argue on what's more important. Here, breeding, we focus on keeping the TDS low and simulating a rainy season for geophagus. So another part of that is also really upping on the feed and a meaty type protein. So bloodworms, some people with certain fish like discus and things will look to beef heart and things like that. But for here, high protein pellet and bloodworms is what we would do, and just wait for them to pair off. So keep that TDS low, more frequent water changes to simulate a rainy season. Temperature is important, so keep the temperature higher than you normally would, and when you're doing those water change, let that temperature naturally kind of drop with your water change, and then the heater in your aquarium will bring that temperature back up, and the fish will, you'll know, they'll get ready to spawn. The tubes will drop on the female and the male. The female tube on a geophagus is going to be larger. It's going to be more U-shaped, and it's going to be blunt. Like, it's going to be very obviously bigger than the males. The males, on the other hand, they'll have a small tube. It's going to be very pointy. It's going to be triangle shaped, and it'll barely stick out, as opposed to the female's ovipositor will come way out. It'll be pretty obvious. So that's pretty much it with breeding geophagus. pH neutral to anywhere from 5 to 6, depending on the species. Neutral is a good place to start. So if you're around 7, it's a good place to keep the fish. And if you're trying to trigger them to spawn, slowly, and I emphasize the word slowly, drop that pH and do more frequent water changes, and that's going to trigger these fish to spawn. So what do you guys think about that? I wasn't reading any of your comments. I was kind of just spitballing with the things we do here, kind of with my experience here. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. I'm going to go and read some of your comments. Fish fam, how's it going? Thanks for joining. Jim Jennings, happy Friday. Susan, good to see you. Animal Instincts wants to see what the Salvinis look like. I will see if I can find those. What pellet do you feed the adults? So Sanjay, here for our breeders, we feed a type that we don't currently sell. We feed multiple types. So one type is the brand Otiheim or Otihime, depends on who you ask how to pronounce that. It's a Japanese brand, I believe. It's Otihime. It's pretty high in protein. Really good food that we use for our breeders here, but we also use a lot of Hikari. We use bloodworms and the larger size for the larger fish. And definitely if you're asking about the geophagus in particular, get a sinking pellet. You want it to get to the bottom. You want to target where those fish feed. So if you have an open water fish, you want a slow sinking pellet. If you have a top water fish, you want a floating pellet. So just keep all those things matter. You want the fish to feel comfortable. You want them to have a high protein diet, and that's going to produce more eggs for you. And you want clean water, and you want to try to simulate natural habitat for the fish. So if it's the geophagus we're talking about, that's going to be rainy season. If we're going to talk about African cichlids, that's going to be a little bit different, but just keep that in mind. Harvey's got the next fish question about breeding Madoka whitelips. So that's a good one. Now they are a little bit more of an aggressive fish when it comes to just keeping them in general. Let's see if we can find a tank of them, and we will look. Here's a smaller tank of them. So we're right next to these small guys, so we'll talk about them. So Madoka whitelips, in my experience, these guys take, sorry about the calcium, it's actually, a lot of it is on the inside of the aquarium. It's not on the outside. This is on the outside, but all that is on the inside. So with breeding these guys, you're gonna have to be patient. They take a long time to grow out. They take a long time to mature. I was actually just in a Facebook group and we were talking about it a couple weeks ago about, hey, I've had these fish 3 years. Some people said, hey, I had them 5 years before they spawned. They just take a long time to mature. Now, once they mature and they start spawning, it's going to be like any other African cichlid where they're just going to continuously breed as long as you keep them happy and healthy. But getting them to that point takes a little bit longer than some of the other Africans. I'm not too sure why that is. It could be just the Placidochromis in general. They tend to take longer to get to that breeding size and conditioning. So just keep that in mind. Like any African, they like higher pH, 7.5 to 8.2 TDS. Doesn't play as much as a factor when it comes to the Africans. They can take a high TDS, but I would keep it around 200 to 300 if you can. I wouldn't go any higher, wouldn't go too much lower. But each fish is going to be different. And everyone's going to have their own way, but this is just things that we look for here. Another thing to consider with Africans is the ratio of fish you have. Same for the geophagus. If you start with juveniles, it's best to kind of just let them naturally form a group. But with Africans, we offer them in-sexed packages. So you can buy breeding groups, you can buy individual males, you can buy individual females. So those are all things to consider. I recommend at least a 1 to 3 ratio, so 1 male for every 3 females, and that's going to help spread aggression. So if you have multiple males in the tank, just make sure if you're trying to breed, you have plenty of females to spread that aggression, and it's going to help the health of your fish, especially the ones that are more towards the bottom end of the pecking order. So just keep that in mind as well. Temperatures anywhere from 75 to 82 is going to be good for your Africans. Consistency is going to be key, and clean water, just like any fish when it comes to breeding. Yeah, Ali Sean, exactly correct. Placidochromis are slow growers. That's why a lot of times, guys, we might be out of stock of sexable male Madokas or sexable male, I'm blanking on the name. Here, well, here's one, a good example. Deep water haps or other starry, I can't think of the name, guys, the star sapphires, there we go. They're just slow growers. They're harder to get up to that size where you can easily tell, and there's no mistaking male female. Lynn, thank you for that. Lynn says, please guys, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, if you're not, please subscribe. We come out with videos 4 or 5 times a week. We're working really hard on that. So if you're interested in to see all of our fish, we're always coming out with new videos. Susan, that's a fantastic point, and I'm gonna hit on that. If you're trying to drop pH, make sure to remove any rocks that may buffer the water. So things like sandstone, limestone, old coral rock, Texas, I believe Texas Holy Rock might leach. Things like bricks, things just like rocks you might find off the street, serious stone, any type of rock that can potentially leach into your water. Just know that that's affecting your water parameters, and if you're trying to breed, you're trying to drop that pH, get those things out of the tank, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you. Sometimes even just taking, for example, we had some bricks and some tanks here intentionally to try and buffer the water, but we decided, hey, okay, now the water's where we want it. We want to simulate the rainy season. We want to try to get these fish to breed. So we just took those rocks out, and we did nothing else other than regular water changes, and our TDS dropped, and wouldn't you know, the fish just started to spawn. So those are just some things to think about when it comes time to spawning these types of fish. We did have a request to look at one of our show tanks, so we will go do that really quick. And just like you guys, sometimes we have issues in our tanks here. We did have one of our tanks end up with ick. We are treating them. We haven't had any losses. We caught it right away, so we are using some cupramine, and it is working. So here's one of our tanks. This is our Central or South American. It's our South American tank. You can see our pikes over here. We have some severums. We have two different species of severums. The giant spheni here, giant cactus pleco over there. We have the panda waru. So we'll get a closer look for you guys. We got tiger severum. We have lone male hecali. He's looking really good. We have a red shoulder severum. Here's the smaller female spheni. And the two larger ones, we got a male and a female here. So the smaller fish is the female up top there, and the larger fish is the male. Now, this is a perfect example of, there is some sexual dimorphism between these two fish, but it's so slight. You can't just solely base your guess on male, female based on the looks of every fish. Now, they're very similar looking, but there are a few slight differences. The female here doesn't have as long as trailers as the male does, but they both have trailers. The male is a little bit more colorful in the cheeks, but if the female cooperates, she does have blue in the cheeks. So each fish can be a little bit different, so just keep that in mind, and that's why I always recommend starting with a group of smaller juvenile fish if you're trying to breed them. Grow them out and let them pair off on their own. We'll look at the Tanganyikan tank over here as well. So we have the Burundi frontosa. You have the Nathochromis permaxillaris right there. Love these guys. You have a little Chilinachromis and Dobnoi there. And another one there. You got the Gelitochromis, your Lulupi. So this is a Tanganyikan tank. We have all kinds of different species in here. A lot of them are, some of them are still trying to grow out. But this is a really enjoyable tank. I would like to, we've spoke about it. We haven't done it yet because we are nervous because of these big brutes of frontosa. But we have discussed potentially trying to add a few small shell dweller colonies in here, but we don't want them to become a potential snack. So we haven't done that yet. That is something we are considering or have considered. So hello Lynx, how's it going? Lynn says she loves all the videos. Thank you, Lynn. We work very hard. Our media guy, he's always editing videos for us. He's fantastic. Here we have some dragon blood looking good. So while there's a lull in the conversation about breeding, if you guys have any questions about a specific fish, now's the time to ask. I've bred over 150 different species of fish. And that doesn't include like the various types of peacocks and haps. Those I just kind of lump into one. So had a lot of my own personal experience here on the farm working here. So if you have any specifics, now is a good time to ask. And while we wait, I am going to talk about a couple of our, actually all of our sale items for this coming, for today and for the next week. So today at 1 o'clock, we're gonna have the Salvinis, the 2 to 3 inch. Those are gonna go on sale. Our 6 packs of orange shrimp. Our trios of red tiger endlers. So for my nano fish keepers, you can get some shrimp and some endlers. That'd be pretty cool. And then we also have the Sankey koi swordtail. So that's 4 items. I'm not sure if there's going to be a 5th. Typically there's 5. So, but right now there's 4. There might be another one added. I could have just missed it, but be on the lookout for that. Today at 1 o'clock, those items will start to be on sale. So Susan had a good question. What do I recommend to prevent egg fungus on rainbows, cories, etc.? And why do rainbows grow so slow? So those are 2 good questions. I'll start with the first one from Susan, and I'm gonna go look at some other fish while we do that. So we'll go walk over towards the rainbows since we are heading in that direction. So what would I recommend to prevent fungus on eggs? Well, first I recommend a clean tank to hatch those eggs out in. So you don't want a lot of debris floating around in the tank, even if it's natural debris like, let's say, leaves, broken down leaves and mold. If you're going to separate the eggs from the parents, it's really important that you, as the fish keeper, keep things from settling on those eggs. So things like mulm, bacteria, uneaten food, leaves, whatever it is, it's important that those leaves, those things don't settle on the eggs. So things you can use that will protect the eggs kind of as a fungicide would be methylene blue. There are some other things that aren't very common in the hobby that can be used that I'm not even going to bring up here, but if you want to look into it, there are other options. But personally, the most recommended and widely used is methylene blue. Now, there are some caveats to the methylene blue. You want to make sure as soon as those eggs start to wiggle and hatch that you get them out of that methylene blue. We've personally seen deformities here from keeping the fry in the methylene blue too long. Things like stunting, things like just deformities, missing pelvic fins, things like that. So methylene blue is a great tool, and it does 2 things that I'm going to bring up that will help prevent eggs from getting fungus. One, it darkens the water and prevents the anything like the fungus and things from attaching and growing and messing with the eggs. So if you get the water dark enough, that's going to prevent those things from happening. Now, you can naturally do this by just keeping the tank in a dark room or a dimly lit room and just having the tank basically blacked out. That's going to help prevent any fungus or bacteria from forming on those eggs. More specifically, it's going to stop the fungus, the blackening of the tank. But also you can do that with the methylene blue, and you can still have you can still view the tank that way. Another thing it's going to do is the bacteria. The methylene blue will help prevent that. Just darkening the tank isn't going to prevent that bacteria, so you do run a risk, but just having the tank dark and having good water flow past those eggs so nothing settles on them typically is enough. Also want to note, after the first couple spawns, depending on the fish, if it's a fish that's going to tend to their young, tend to their fry, and take care of the eggs like most cichlids do, they almost 100% of the time will do a better job than you can at hatching the eggs. Now, as a fish farm facility, we pull all of our eggs, and that is going to ensure that the fish spawn sooner for us. It's going to ensure that we don't lose any fish due to predation in the tank. But when it comes to just hatching those eggs, the parents will do a fantastic job, and I recommend that if you're just breeding at home for fun, let the parents hatch the eggs when it comes to cichlids. And all you're going to do is, once they hatch, and if it's in a community type tank, once they hatch, go ahead, catch those fry out. Use a turkey baster and suck them out of the tank, or use a small airline tubing and siphon the fry out of the tank. And that's really going to help boost the numbers of fry that survive. Typically, when it comes to hatching the eggs on yourself, it's going to be 100% success or 100% failure when you're doing it on your own. And that is just because unless you're dedicating all your time to picking out little tiny eggs that may have fungus, whether they're unfertilized or not, if it's not your full-time job, it's going to be very difficult. And so, like, once a few eggs get fungus, that fungus and bacteria is going to spread really quickly on those eggs. So just keep that in mind. If you are pulling those eggs, you could potentially lose them all, or you could potentially have them all hatch. So it's kind of a gamble. And even here, as experienced as we are, we still run into those same issues. So just keep that in mind. Now, Animal Instincts, yes, the Salvini will be on sale. Let me grab my paper, I set it down. I'll tell you if it's the Tabasco or the regular. It is going to be the Tabasco Salvini, so I believe they're right over here. We'll look at those, and I'm going to talk about the rainbows. And somebody asked why they grow so slow. I don't know why they grow so slow, but it's not an only you problem. They are just very slow growers. That's why when you see us out of stock on certain types of rainbow fish that we breed, if they're out of stock, they're out of stock for a long time, because it takes a long time to get them to a size that we sell them at. So typically we sell them at 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 inches, and it takes a long time for a rainbow fish to get to that size. And typically we don't bring our rainbows to a pond, so we're not going to get that extra boost in growth. Most of our rainbows we currently breed them all inside, and we grow them up all inside, except for one type, and that is going to be the Deepwater Creek Rainbow. We do have those in our ponds. So just due to the potential of hybridization, we don't let the rainbows currently out into our field because we are worried about potential hybridization. So here are the Salvinis, the Tabasco Salvini. And that's just one really nice male there. Looks like a smaller female there, all colored up. She's bright yellow. But Beautiful fish. They can be pretty aggressive, so just keep that in mind. But look at the colors on them. They're hard to beat. You get yellow, blues, reds. You get the black with the blue stripe. A really nice fish. Rockkeel Severums. I will see if I can find them, LS. And thank you for your orders. Really appreciate it. Chris, we had just talked about that. I will go over that one time really quick with you. We have... Here are the Rockkeel Severums, I believe. I'm sorry if this is the wrong type. I believe you said Rockkeel, so... There's only a handful in here, but here's the big guy up front. So on sale this week is going to be the Salvini Cichlid, the Tabasco Salvini. Orange shrimp. That's going to be 6 packs of our Sakura orange shrimp. We have trios of red tiger endlers. And then there's a Sankei koi swordtail. And those are going to be 10 packs. Now I missed the last item on the sale. There is one more item. I can't back out and look at my messages to see what it is without interrupting the live stream. So if you're interested, make sure you check out our website today at 1 o'clock. Check out the sales tab and you can see what that 5th item is. It's probably a type of African cichlid. I just don't know which one it is. So just keep that in mind. Here we go. It's going to be the 3 to 4 inch male German yellow blaze. So thank you to the person behind the screen in the office. So the final item this week will be 3 to 4 inch male German yellow blaze. And guys, they look fantastic. So if you're in the market for another male African cichlid, get these guys while they're on sale. I don't know what their markdown is, but it's probably anywhere from 30 to 50%. So move on those while you can. So yeah, guys, that's just... Let me turn you guys around. Can I show the yellow blaze? I can. And we will look at those and then we'll talk a little bit before we leave. So let's see if we have some in this warehouse right now. Sometimes if we have a lot of a type of fish, they might not even come to the warehouse. Here's some smaller yellow blaze icebergs. That's a really small one, but it's already colored up. There's a nicer one back there. But let's look for the regular yellow blaze. Here's some yellow blaze icebergs. And here are the German yellow blaze. So, they look really good. They are getting a water change, so our water comes in cloudy. So just keep that in mind. But they look really nice. This is an all-male tank, so some of them currently aren't fully colored up, like that one in the middle there. But really good fish. They hold their color really well, even when stressed. You still at least get that yellow blaze. Like, look at this little fish. I don't know why he's still in here. He was in here last week. Just a little guy snuck his way in there. He needs to go, but you can see he's getting bullied. He's skinny. But you can see even at that little size, he still has that yellow blaze. So this is one fish that holds their color pretty well. They lose the blue, but that yellow stays most of the time, even when they're stressed. Like, you can see the dominant male, his blue is a lot more dark. And this one too. But beautiful fish. So guys, that's gonna be it for today. If you have any more breeding questions, bring them to the next live stream. I like talking about breeding. That's kind of my thing around here as the breeding manager. I started off breeding here. It's just what I love to do. So I'll talk breeding all day long. I'll talk fish all day long, but bring your questions next week if you have more. And thank you guys for joining. Be sure to check out those sales dropping today at 1 o'clock. And we'll catch you guys next week. Later.